Welcome to Inspiring Conversations with Patti and Veronica. In this video, Veronica and I will be sharing about boundaries. Hi, I'm Patti Oskvarek, Coaching for Inspiration with Patti, a work-life balance coach and leadership coach, Reiki master, blogger, and podcaster. I help managers and supervisors and others to become better leaders and live a more purposeful, balanced life outside of work. Veronica, tell us a little bit about
Oh,
yourself.
thank you, Paddy. So, yes, my name is Veronica Roberts, and I'm a well-being and money coach from Uplift Your Life with Veronica. And I'm all about inspiring people to absolutely live their best life so they're thriving and not just plodding on through life. So that's what I'm all about.
Thank you. Veronica and I are going to talk about a topic that we both have struggled with throughout our life: boundaries. Having boundaries at work, having boundaries at home, having boundaries in all aspects of our life. And before we came on, we talked a little bit about boundaries, and we wanted to share and hope that this helps people out there that do struggle with boundaries, that are people pleasers, that don't know how to say no. And I'm going to give you a little story, a work story about what I did to struggle with boundaries with somebody that I worked with. There was a person at work that I worked with that was a gossiper and was always trying to pull out little information from people and then spread it all around the office. And this person would come into my office and start gossiping about people, and or try to pull information out of me about someone. And I would say, oh, I'm working on something right now, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Or I would get up and say, oh, I got to go to a meeting, or I am really, really busy right now, I can't take the time to do this. Or I would just get up and walk them out of the office and say, sorry, I got a meeting to go to, or I got something to go to. And eventually that person knew that I wasn't going to be that person that was going to listen to all of that negativity, and whether it was true or not, I didn't want to hear it. So that was how I set up boundaries with that person. I also had certain phrases that I would use to kind of change the subject. I would say something really nice about that person, and that seemed to, shock that person, or people that would do that, into it would change the dynamics, and then the conversation would stop. Veronica, do you have any suggestions on that type of boundaries?
Wow, I love that suggestion, and I've not heard that one, so I've gained here already. So thank you for that one, Patty. Yeah. So my sort of suggestions are, I think it is sort of taking like a pause and a breath so that you're actually responding rather than reacting. I think that's the biggest thing, is because you can get caught up in situations. So everything that you said, Patty, was, alluding to that, although you'd already made up your mind, this is not going to happen, I'm not going to do that. But sometimes we do get caught out, don't we, in circumstances and situations. So that pause allows you the thinking time to think, oh, do I really want to get involved in this way or not? So yeah, amazing. I love that idea though of absolutely flipping it around. I'm going to use that one. I love that. Oh,
what what are boundaries? You know, how do you place boundaries? When do you know you need boundaries? Those type of things. I think we've all, sometimes don't know that we do need boundaries. What are boundaries? Boundaries are healthy boundaries. Define what is appropriate in your relationship and what is not appropriate, and the behavior that keeps both individuals that are in a relationship safe. Boundaries differ from people to people. What I find appropriate might not be appropriate to Veronica. So sometimes we need to communicate what, it's just like hugging. I'm a hugger, but not everybody wants to be touched. So you kind of have to feel that out, if that's okay or not okay, or ask, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
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 So I have different boundaries than Veronica. We both live in different countries. What might be appropriate in America may not be appropriate in the UK, or vice versa. So sometimes knowing where you're at and who you're with, even different states, things are appropriate and not appropriate. In Arizona, a lot of people don't talk about politics. They feel that's rude. People come from other states and start, talking politics, and people shy away from that here. Not everybody, because we have a lot of people that have come from different states, but that's just an example of, boundaries. I actually say to people, I don't do politics. And that's a boundary I put up.
That's fantastic. And I think a part of that, and I totally agree with it, is like, as you said, about communication. That's key, isn't it? But part of that communication is being clear and specific. And you just said, nice and easy, I don't do politics. There's no doubt in there exactly what you're communicating. And sometimes I think that we can feel like we need to justify ourselves, and we can make that a whole much bigger sentence, and then the message actually gets lost then, or there's places for people to pick holes in it, type of thing. So that is, I don't I don't do politics, is an amazing boundary, really clear. There's no ambiguity there. That's easy. And I think that's an important factor to take into account when you're creating boundaries for yourself and for others, is that clarity of exactly, without all that explanation. Yeah, fantastic. Well done. Yeah, yeah. And I think as well is that for me, with regard to boundaries, it's about me and my responsibility, because I can't change another person. And we've already discussed and worked out that people have different expectations and different roles. So there's no way that they could match my values. They might have similar ones, but somewhere along the line, we're not going to agree. So it's all about my own personal responsibility, and then conveying that to someone, so that they are clear on what it is that I value and respecting myself with. So would you agree with that as well, Patti?
Yes, yes. And learning how to say no to things that you don't want in your life. Say you're in a volunteer position and it no longer sparks you up, right? And you're continuing to do it and it's not making you happy anymore. It's time to, not volunteer anymore and give somebody else an opportunity to do that volunteer position. I'm just giving that as an example. Or say a friend says, oh, I want you to go to this concert with me, and you don't want to go. it's okay to say no. No, I'm not gonna, I'm sorry. I have something else to do, or no, that's not for me. It's okay to say no. But you're afraid that you're going to hurt that other person's feelings by not going, or that person's going to get mad at you, but you're going to be miserable at that concert. So it's okay to say no and do something else that you enjoy with that person and not go to that concert.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I was thinking about is actually, as you say, the people pleasing, which I have absolutely been in that place, and I'm working to undo that. And that kind of going along with, and then you're wasting your valuable lifetime, doing something that you don't enjoy, which doesn't make sense. But often what I found personally for me, the reason for that is because I don't want to feel the uncomfortable feelings of feeling unkind or upsetting the other person. So I override my values. That's what a people pleaser does, override my values then to actually by not saying no, or it's not for me, or something like that. So if you notice that you're feeling sort of frustrated or those types of feelings, then that is a sure sign that you're not actually choosing a boundary. And when we do that choosing of boundaries for ourselves, we are going to feel uncomfortable. So expect that, and expect also perhaps the response won't be a good one, because they're used to you perhaps saying yes, and now you're saying no. So that doesn't go down very well. What's going on here? I always used to have my own way. Why can't I have that now?
You will get pushback, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's lots of elements of boundaries tied in here, with the people pleasing, for expecting to feel uncomfortable with your own feelings, expecting pushback. So I can see, that confrontation, and people are going to shy away from that. But then you're not honoring yourself or being true, because in a way you're lying to the other person, aren't you? Yeah, what's your take on that, Patti?
Yeah, I mean, whatever your excuses, or um, make sure that it's true. Yeah, you want to be honest. And I think if they love you and respect you, they'll understand if you say, no, I really don't want to go to that concert. If they're a true friend, or your partner, or family, they're going to respect that. They're not going to force you to go. It's just like if somebody hurts you and you don't say anything, that behavior is going to continue until you express and put up that boundary. And not feeling guilty about putting up that boundary, because and communicating it in a way that they understand why you're putting up that boundary. Communication is the most important part of everything in relationships. How you communicate. Now, you can't control what the other person's reaction is. And that's okay if they do react in a way, but they might go back and reflect on it, hopefully reflect on it, and come back to you and say, oh, now I understand. And then you're opening up that conversation of why you're putting up that boundary. And then there's going to be times where you're not going to have that opportunity, and accept it.
Yeah, it is a bumpy road out there when you're putting out boundaries to start with
Yes.
until you get into your stride, and then you have those patterns and tools and techniques, like that flipping it around, and saying something good about a person. That's such a brilliant technique. So when you're armed with those, then it starts to become easier. And then, as Patty said, those that love you and care for you will respect your boundary, but also notice when you're being true to yourself and your values, you're respecting you. And because you're instilling respect within your energy and within your system, then more often you will have respectful people come to you. The disrespectful people will be less and less because you've you send off this energy of respect. Is when you're talking about respect, when people, your family and friends, are respectful and they love you, then they will appreciate you and understand your boundary. And I think when we're first starting out, you may not feel that you've got that respect for the boundary at first, but the more that you start to respect yourself and your values and being able to say no, the more that you'll be matched with people who will come into your surroundings, your circumstances that are respectful. So it's like the law of attraction. As you are having the energy of strong boundaries and respect for yourself, then you'll be matched with people who understand and have those same values. So, yeah, that's really interesting that life then becomes easier because then the people who are in your surrounding are actually acting in the same way as yourself. So, yeah, I think it's a good thing, a good thing.
And it's being kind to yourself and kind to others, putting up those boundaries. And the more you do it and the more you practice with it, the more confident you become with it, and have certain ways that you communicate those boundaries in a way that you're comfortable with. You figure out what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and you become a more genuine person by expressing your needs of what you want in the relationship. You don't want disrespect. You want to be talked kindly to or respectfully to. Those are some examples of how you want to be treated within your work relationships, home relationships, friend relationships, children relationships, parent relationships, all of those things. And it's really hard at first to put up those boundaries, but as time goes on, people start, if you're treating them respectfully, they'll treat you respectfully. If you treat them kind, they're going to treat you kind. As time goes on, you're building that foundation with each other.
Yeah, and I love that word that you used, being genuine. And I feel that is a really good example to show to people as well, so that you don't need to be fake. Then you can, it's okay to be you and your values and speak out about them. And that taps also into worthiness, self-esteem, and as well as that self-respect, isn't it? That self-worthiness. And that's a brilliant example to be offering people, especially like family members and children who are coming behind you. Oh gosh, look at the strong values and the way that my mum is expressing those. And that's such a brilliant example then for people moving forward. Yeah, I like that.
So is there anything else, Veronica, you would like to share on the topic of boundaries?
Yeah, I would like to share that having boundaries is not about like placing a threat in place that you're trying to make somebody do something as if you have control over them, because we only have control for ourselves. We don't have control of another person. So a boundary might look like something along the lines of, say you're a passenger in the car and somebody in the car is smoking. And a boundary would be something like, if you're continuing to smoke, can you please drop me off at the next, stop that where it's safe, or, bus stop or train stop or taxi rank, or so that the boundary is protecting what you want for you, but you can't make somebody else do something. So it's all about your responsibility. Or another thing could be that, say, sometimes you're receiving late telephone calls, like I've had in my life, is like late telephone calls in the evening, sort of like somebody's been out, had a good time, and then it's gone into an argument, and they're ringing me up for advice and saying, oh, this went this way and this went that way, and things like that. So, putting the boundary in there is, something, okay, I can hear that you have a situation going on, but I'm not going to take phone calls at this time of evening. Maybe we can discuss this tomorrow. And that being a boundary then, and just reaffirming that, so that the next time that they rang, very much like Patti said, that she had all these um, techniques for that person in the office coming in, trying to create gossip and trying to that. She just reaffirmed, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to a meeting. No, I'm too busy, walking them to the door. And we do need to keep doing that. And then they get the message, and then they realize, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't going to happen. And you've then secured your boundary. So, yeah, I think it's important to, whereas, boundaries is a big topic for me, and I have struggled with it a lot because I've been a people pleaser, and I've used it because I didn't have the knowledge around it as a threat, sort of like, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do that, in a threatening type of way. But then what you're teaching people is how to be manipulative and how have threatening behavior, in not reaffirming your self-power. And that's what a boundary is about, is your self-power. So yeah, that's what I feel I wanted to cover there, Patti. How do you feel?
That was very, very powerful.
Thank you.
I like how you say not to use it as a manipulative. That's not what you want. You just want to be able to do the things that you want to do and not do the things that you don't want to do. And you don't want to be a manipulator, and you don't want to be manipulated. So that's what setting a boundary is. And it doesn't have to be harsh. Actually, you don't want it to be harsh. You want it to be something natural that is not offensive to yourself or to others. And it is part of people living a happy life. When you're a people pleaser, you're doing a lot of things that you don't want to do, and to make other people happy. And you deserve happiness too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you with that, coming at it from a place of love and kindness, because um, you want to express love, and sometimes it's just a matter of opinion. That's all that we're talking about often. It's just a difference of opinion. So we don't need to be hostile or manipulative. We can just come from a place of love or kindness, and it's that open communication that we were talking about earlier. Yeah. I think we covered a lot in this session, didn't we?
Yes, yes. And we would love to hear your thoughts or your techniques that you use for boundaries. And thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.